So we have finished heels on both socks. Now we need to remove the rise of our heel. We will need both socks at the same time. By the magic loop method, around each sock. And for the convenience of working with heels lifting at the end of the sock, we will transfer it to the appropriate side of the magic loop. The heel we knitted at the beginning of our row, in the first half circle. So now we need to knit the circle to the end. And we finish from this side of sock. The heel on the front side remains. We'll knit all the stitches according to the pattern. We do not make rejections yet. I will speed up the recording so that you do not have to watch me knitting socks. You can pause and catch up with me if you knit with me in the same time. And here are the lifting stitches on the opposite side of the heel. We transfer them without knitting them to the additional needle. And leave it for now. We will return to them. Then we knit with circle on the opposite side. And the last stitch is a knit stitch. We repeat all our actions with the second socket. We knit the heels lifting stitches at the beginning of this row by the pattern. We will make a small installation, and I am already at the end of this semicircle approaching the heels lifting. They are separated by a marker. We pull out the needle, and all the heels lifting stitches are on the other side of the circle. And we turn the work. We start a series of decreases. First half of the round, there are we knitting the heel. The first stitch is knitted as knit stitch. Then the lifting stitches with a pattern are purled to the last heels lifting stitch. The last purl stitch of the heels lifting we need to turn now, so that we can knit two stitches together. We need to knit two stitches together as a knit stitch. And then we knit according to the pattern to the end of the semicircle on this sock. We repeat the same for the second socket. I remind you, this is the semicircle. There we knitted our heel. The first stitch is that knit. Next we knit all the heels lifting by purl stitches to the last stitch. We need to turn the last stitch in order to knit it together with the next knit stitch. As a knit stitch, we transfer the stitches and knit one stitch from the two stitches. And we finish the semicircle with a sock according to the pattern. turn the rope around, and now we will make a decrease in the heel slitting stitch on the opposite side of the heel. First, at the beginning of this semicircle, we need the first knit stitch and the next row stitch together with the knit one. Then we need all the heel slitting stitches with purl stitches. This is a double stitch of a German short row, which reminded after work of the heel. We knit it behind the pattern and continue to work to the end the semicircle. Repeat the same actions for the second sock. There will be no video of this moment, so just repeat. And then just turn your rock around. This row of the circle will be without decrease, so we just knit it according to the patterns on both socks. A complete row of the circle. We repeat these two rows in turn. A row with decreases and a row around without decreases until our two knit stitches will meet. You see, we have removed all the purl stitches and the knit stitches now. The solid pattern with 2x2 rubber. Then we continue to knit with a pattern of an elastic band to purl in a circle at the height of my little finger to the middle of my little finger. Choose the height and length of the socks that you need. For a wider sock who needs wider, knit to the end of the little finger and who needs more narrow and long toes of the sock, then to the beginning of the little finger. We will form a toes of the sock by decreased stitches. And here I am to the finish line, and for me to knit only a toes of the sock. To do this, we will again alternate a row of decreases with a row of non-decreases. We will make decrease each half circle on each side under the knit stitch on the end. That is, we will have 4 stitches to decrease in each row of the circle. This is how it looks from the end. We need stitches and a decrease in the end. Let's start with the decrease. The first row of the circle. On the second, we will redistribute the stitches for convenience. The first knit stitch is just knitted. Then we will transfer it to the circle, which is now behind the row. And the second 2 stitches we knitted together with the knit one, we took 1 stitch then under the knit stitch, and then we knit according to the pattern. At the end of this semicircle, we will have 2 purl stitches. But we need 1 knit stitch on the end of both the stitches under it. This knit stitch is now on the other side of the circle, on that semicircle, that is behind the work. We will need to move 1 knit stitch to this semicircle to make it convenient and comfortable to get rid of the stitches. We have come to the end, so we just knit the purl stitches. There is no knit stitch under which we could close the stitch. We leave one stitch. For an additional knitting needle, we knit it together with the knit stitch, which is now inaccessible to us. The same with the second sock. We just knit the first knit stitch, then we will move it to the adjacent circle, and we knit the second knit stitch together. The next stitch behind it is a knit stitch. And here we are approaching the end again. There we also need to leave one cross stitch for the next semicircle. And here we just turn the work around and pull the needle. And our purl stitch is on the other side of the work. Now we can close it under the knit stitch. We turn the stitches because the knit stitch is the second, and so that we can knit under it, we need to turn the stitches, insert the needle into the knit stitch and knit 2 stitches together with the knit stitch. Now just pull out the knitting needle, and the fourth stitch goes to the opposite semicircle. The next wrong stitch and purl behind it we knit as a knit stitch. This will be the end stitch in this semicircle. Knit with a pattern to the end of this semicircle to the next end part. And the last purl stitch we transfer to the marker to knit it together with the knit stitch, which is now on the opposite side of our sock. We transfer the stitch from the additional knitting needle to the worker. One we now knit the additional knitting needle yet. It is a purl stitch. We will now knit it together with the knit stitch. To do this we need to unfold the stitches. Insert the needle into the final stitch and knit 2 stitches together with a knit stitch. This stitch will need to be transferred to the opposite hem, so I leave it on the markers. And next we need a star with a marker to the end of the circle. And we have one purl stitch left. We need to move the knit stitch to the semicircle here. We just pull it over because it's the last sock, and we can just pull it over the knitting needle. We need to unfold the stitches in order to knit 2 stitches together under the knit stitch. We introduce the knitting needle into a knit stitch. We knit it. Turn our work. Here we have one knit stitch. We do not do a decrease now. It should be a row without decreases, but since we did not carry all the stitches, we will still have a decrease in this row. Now that the socks are already knitted, I think that it would be more effective to transfer the stitches so that you have the first row of decrease in one row and then a row without decrease, but we have what we have. And here is another stitches transferred, and we transfer it to the working knitting needle. There is already a decrease made, so we do not make a decrease here. For example, from the entire half semicircle we just knit and transfer the knitting needles from the additional knitting needle to the main working stitches. The next sock, and in this semicircle we have one stitch which needs to transfer to the outer semicircle. We knit it and leave it on the marker. Here we would have to knit two stitches together, but I forgot to do it. With semicircle also ends with a knit stitch. There is no need to do a decrease. We just knit with the pattern on the work. Here too everything is correct. We do not need to decrease anything, just knit with a pattern. The first stitch is the knit one, behind it there is a purl. Here the decrease is already done, and at the end of this semicircle everything is fine. We have one purl stitch left, and we transfer the knit stitch to the working needle. And the next sock here need to decrease. We need two stitches together, one knit stitch plus one purl stitch, and we have one knit stitch, and then for the pattern. The last decrease at the end of the sock, because it is also not here. We turn the stitches, insert the knitting needle into the knit stitch. It is second stitch, and knit two stitches together as a knit stitch. This was our second row where we divided the stitches and made a decrease. The next row we knit without decreases, and the fourth row will be a row with a decrease. In 5 and 6 row without decreases. We continue to knit a row with a decrease, and 2 rows without decrease. In In total, the decrease will be in the first, 4th, 7th, 10th and 14th row. In each row of decreases, we record 4 stitches. From 16th row, turn only 2 rows. 1 row will decrease and 1 row without decrease. That means each cycle we make a decrease. We make such decreases for about 60 rows. But in fact, you need to focus on your own length of your hook. I call them number stitches with a knitted seam of the stitch in the stitch. I'm not sure the thread foot and longer than my potential seam, plus a little bit on the hook. We measure the thread of the second sock. Put the yarn into the needle. We carry out a knitted seam stitch on stitch. We will try to do this seam by pattern, that is to alternate 2 knit stitch, 2 purl, and the first we have 2 knit stitch. We have the ability to insert the needle into the stitch in 2 ways, from the back of the stitch and from the front of the stitch. Now insert the needle from the back of the stitch. Move on to the opposite stitch with which we plan to connect the stitch. But here I will insert the needle not from the back stitch, but from the front. The stitch that comes out between these 2 stitches will also be the knit one. Come back to the first stitch. Now insert the needle into the same stitch, only from the front. We stay on the same needle, and now we need to join the next stitch from the same knitted needle. We insert the needle from the back of the stitch into the next stitch. We pass to the opposite needle and insert the needle from the front. Next, we will have 2 purl stitches. Therefore, we will change the direction of the insertion of the needle into the stitch to the opposite one. It is better to look at the sequence of my actions carefully, so I'll just be silent. There will not be a full match of knit stitches and purl stitches when sewing in such a way that the stitches are in turn so often 2 by 2, but the imitation of the pattern will still be present. Once more time to knit stitches. I noticed a long time ago that knitted seam looks worse. The execution of knitted seam looks worse than when you actually do it. There are quite technical, monotonous actions, not complicated, and there is nothing complicated there. Repetitive actions. We hide our ends and move on to the second sock. We sew the second sock on the same way. In principle, our socks could be ready, but ruffles, if you forgot about it, then I didn't. I used white yarns for the ruffles, not socks yarn. In order for the ruffles to come out tightly, I needed a thin thread to increase the number of stitches twice at the beginning of the row. Therefore, I will knit the first row in 2 additions of my thread, and from the second row I will divide the stitches by 2. And I take the second set of needles with a long wire, because I will knit a sock according to the magic loop method. For such thin yarn, I take needles 2 and 5 millimeters. We will combine the yarn into 2 folds. We will knit only 1 row, and from the second row we will go to 1 thread. Let's start our ruffle. We knit the first row around the circle with knit stitches, that is, from each stitch we will have a double stitch. Turn the work around. The first row of the circle is knitted with a white thread. We move on to the work of the second row. We separate on thread. Leave only one, the second just cut. We tie it, fix it temporarily. Then we hide it when everything is finished in the sock. In the second row we knit 1 by 1 with a rubber, 1 knit stitch and 1 purl stitch. Both stitches we get from the double stitch of the first row. That is, we divide into 2 separate threads. We knit the first stitch, which we can separate with the knit stitch, and the second stitch as the purl stitch. As the second row, We will need the whole ruffle with 1 by 1 elastic rubber. 1 stitch is knit, the second stitch is purl. The volume of our ruffle will be given by increased stitches, which we will do quite often. And the third row we need it just behind the pattern, alternating the knit and back stitches in a circle to the end. The fourth row is a row with additions. We will do them after each purl stitch. That is, we knit the first knit 1 as a knit stitch, then a purl stitch, and then we take a broach between the stitches, and from under with broach we knit a knit stitch. We repeat the action and knit the knit stitch, the purl stitch. We take the broach between the stitches, then knit 1 from the broach, knit stitch, purl stitch, by the pattern, the broach. We continue to knit in with way until the end of the row. Five row, we will make increments after each third stitch. That is, we knit the knit stitch, then behind it the purl stitch, and then we have to knit stitch towards, one of which we raise to the first row and we have with a pattern. We raise the broach between them, and here we will already have a purl stitch knitted from the broach. And we repeat the sequence of our actions: knit, purl, knit, broach between the two stitches, knit once, from it we rise, we knit a purl stitch, thus we create 1 by 1 elastic rubber, and so that there are constantly knit and purl stitch in turn. Repeat this sequence to the end of the row. Sixth row, we knit behind the pattern without increments to the end of the row of the circle. The seventh row is a repetition of the fourth row. The first is knit, the second is purl, and the first stitch we lift from the broach. It will be the knit one. The next one, after it is also knit, that is, we make increases after each second stitch. Increase, and again we repeat, knit, purl, and increase of the knit from the broach. The eighth row is a repetition of the fifth row. That is here we will make increments after each third stitches. The first stitch is the knit stitch, the second stitch is the purl stitch, the third is the knit stitch that we raised in the previous row. And between the two knit stitches we take from the brooch and knit a purl stitch. We repeat the actions. Knit stitch is first, the second is purl, the third is knit stitch again. After the third stitch we make increase of the purl stitch. We continue this sequence of actions until the end of the row. Ninth row without increases, alternating knit and purl stitches. For me there is already enough largeness, so I will not do no more increase. Instead I will knit there more rows for the pattern, but I need the head of ruffle. We pass to the closing of the stitches. To close the stitches we will use the Italian method of knitting needles. For this I measure long enough thread. I will not measure the length of the thread because it will be inconvenient for me to work. Measure the thread according to your comfort. We proceed to the closure. Insert the needle into the back stitch, remove it. This will be our first stitch. Then we turn the work so that the next stitch looks the same as the knit one, and again we insert the needle into the back stitch of the knit stitch. We pull out thread, turn the work back, and then we will work on the one side only with the knit stitches. As is skipping the turning stitches, we find our knit stitch, and now we insert the needle in the front of the stitch of the knit stitch, the next knit stitch, and insert a needle from the back on it, turning the work around. Find the knit stitch that we have already removed from working needle. Insert the needle into it from the front, and in the knit stitch, which is still on the needle, we insert a needle from the back of the stitch and remove it from the needle. We pull the thread and repeat the sequence of actions. Turning the work, we seem to work only with knit stitches. Find the knit stitch into which we have already inserted the needle. Now insert the needle into this stitch from the front of the stitch. And in the next stitch, which is still on the needle, insert the needle from behind. Pull up, remove the stitch from the needle. On the work, find the previous knit stitch. Insert the needle in front, and in the knit stitch, which is on the needle, in the back. In fact, I really like the Italian method of closing the stitches with the needle. It is quite meditative. Only the first time it seems difficult, but after doing one of these ruffles, you will become an expert in this method. This is what the closed edge looks like. Complete to the end all the stitches close on this sock and repeat such a move on your second sock. And we all came to. And with you our socks is ready both. And see you in new videos. Bye!